Hey everyone, my name is Sean Cotter. I am the executive director for Wicked Queer, Boston's LGBTQ Film Festival. And I am also the curator, not the creator. Wow, I wish I was the creator of the men's shorts program, Connecting, Connected, Connection. And I'm here joined with some of our filmmakers from that program. So I'm going to have folks go around and introduce themselves in their film. So Andrew, why don't you start? Andrew,
Which Andrew?
right? Well, you can start then.
Hi, my name is Andrew Chappelle, and I'm the writer creator of Fanatic.
Hello, I'm the other Andrew, and I am the writer and director of Sax.
Who's next? Me?
Yeah,
Well,
go for it.
I'm Kane Quick. I'm a writer and director of Reflections.
And hello, I'm Cyril Meyer. I'm writer, producer, and actor in Coming Out.
Thank you guys all for joining me on this lovely Monday night. Um, I'm sort of excited to sort of hash it up with you because I have to say all of you offered such great perspectives sort of to bring to the festival. Lots of comedy, which is kind of good, a little bit of drama. Kane, your film is definitely the button pusher of the crowd. So Cyril, why have you big on the screen here? Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you came up with Coming Out?
So Coming Out is a film that I made at a certain point in my life. I was facing the obstacle or the journey of coming out to my parents, both as being bisexual and as being a cannabis user. And I thought it could be quite fun to play what's usually a coming out story, but in this story, the purpose is to come out as a cannabis user, as a stoner. And so it was a lot of fun to just explore that and essentially tell two tales in one.
I, as a cannabis user and someone who, as a festival director, searching for a cannabis sponsor, I applaud your sterner comedy and also sort of flipping the script a little bit on the coming out tale. So thank you for that. Um, I guess Andrew Chappelle, tell me a little bit about how your film kind of came about. How is the writing on it? What was your sort of process of sort of bringing Fanatic into life?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a kid of the 90s, so boy bands are in my DNA. Yeah, I was inspired to write the movie just because I had just moved to LA, and like most, actor filmmakers, you have to kind of self-start. So, it was during the wildfires and the pandemic, so I had no other choice than to sit at my computer. And so I was just, thinking about boy bands, and I was like, what if there was this like underground gay boy band that never made it? What's that story? And so then I just kind of started thinking about that and reflecting on some of the interesting people I've met over the years, and it made me question, what lengths would a fan go to meet their idol? And so then those two ideas came together to make Fanatic.
Oh, that's great. So Kane, same question for you. How did your film come about?
Well, it started with a conversation with my DP, Jordi Planey, and my producer, Alina. Um, we normally work on commercials quite a lot together. And mainly Jordi asked me, like, why didn't you never write about your sexuality? And it was like a coming out process, artistic way talking, no? Like I felt like I was ready to write about that. And yeah, the story started because I realized how much people, how less people know about what it is to come out of the closet. No, we have all the prototypes of what they see as queer or but what happens like when you're in your room maybe crying or wondering why you're different than the people in your class, or maybe trying to commit suicide because you don't comprehend how your feelings are. So I started writing about my personal experiences, then I asked some friends to share their experiences, and there's a nice bit that once we did the casting for the movie, I did it in social media, even Grindr, and many people came, and that was amazing. No, like we didn't expect that amount of people coming to the cast. So I did groups of, we seemed like a therapy group, like groups of 5, and started talking about coming out. Some of the actors were not gay, but news stories about friends, sisters, brothers, and so basically we started doing like a bit of a therapy there, and such amazing stories came out, and stronger than I could ever imagine. I'm talking about well, here in Mexico, reconversion therapies and shit like that. So I rewrote the script like weeks before we started shooting, because I felt that this was the time to involve as many stories and people possible, just to invite the viewer to have a reflection. No.
No, that's amazing too. So I guess Andrew, the same question for you about sex.
Yeah. So I wrote this film during my last year at grad school, and during my time in grad school, I always knew I wanted to write something about musicians, and I just couldn't exactly figure out what that was going to be. And so I drew back to kind of my good old days where I did play the saxophone, and so that's where the inspiration came from. But I also knew that I wanted to make it a gay story, because I feel that gay relationships in particular can be very complex. There's a lot of layers to them that a lot of people don't see on the screen on a typical day. And so I was sort of drafting it with all these things in mind. And then I kind of recalled my times in band and band camp, and knew that with a lot of band instruments, there's a lot of sexual jokes that came out of it. So like spitting jokes, sucking jokes, you name it. And that's how Sax came alive, and I was very excited to write and direct it.
That's kind of amazing. Again, I'm going to comment about the sexualization of the reed in your film is kind of amazing. Like again, my program team, when we were kind of talking through some of the films that we had selected, that was sort of the chatter among my programmers about that. Sort of like no one's ever seen that before. So bravo to you for sort of bringing that into queer canon as it is now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I guess Kane, for you, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit more too. You created this sort of like this world within your film. Again, it reminded me a lot of music videos. But again, it was such a world of button pushing and sort of like gritty, like you, again, the mirror showed all of the flaws and all of the sort of the world around us. How did you sort of come about sort of making that sort of that gaze back so unflinching?
Well, of course, the idea of the film came wanting, it's more a film not for a queer viewer, you know. It's more for the rest of the population, but it also, you also connect with something that might have happened in your life. No, there's a point in the film. Wait, just a second. ¿Puedes aguantar el ruido un segundito? Sí, gracias. My roommate is drilling in the wall, so I have to hold it for a second. Yeah, I wanted to invite people to reflect, and reflection has these 2 points, no, the light reflection and the mental reflection. So that's how it all started to cook from there, no. And we decided to, there's a point, I guess you saw it in the theater, but there's a point that when the voiceover asks you, like, it goes to black, you see your own reflection in the screen, no, as a viewer. It's designed to watch in cell phones. I never thought someone would select me to a festival, so that's pretty cool. But so the film was designed to watch in Vimeo, you know. I was just gonna release it and that's it. But after it was done, they they told me, let's try the festival, so it reaches more people. So yeah, basically that's what happened. But it all started with the reflection.
But I mean, the thing is that even with the metaphor of the screen, it's projected on a screen, so it still kind of fits as well.
Yeah.
What I really responded to, I have to say, and this is no offense to coming out narratives or anything like that. I see a ton of coming out narratives, and it really takes something special for me to sort of like raise it up. And also bring it to an audience, because again, I feel like a queer festival audience has come out, I mean, it's not really a space, not that it's a unwelcoming space for folks who are sort of finding their own sexuality and stuff like that. I would hope that we would be welcoming to everybody, but I feel like at the same time, the majority of the folks that are in the audience have already sort of come out and have already started on their journey post coming out. But what I really responded to, especially to your film, Kane, is the sort of the reminder that the world is not an easy and safe place. And I think that sometimes, especially in America and also in Massachusetts, in our little sort of bubble that we live in, that we kind of forget that. And we forget that
Yeah.
there is not only, I mean, you know, it's in our backyard, but like,
Yeah.
you know, people walk around with blinders on it. And I feel like the reminder of that I think is useful as a tool for action,
Yeah.
activism.
Yeah, I'm European, I'm Spanish, and thank God in Spain we're very involved in that as well. But I live in Mexico, and Mexico City is amazing to be gay, but you just have to cross a couple of wrong roads and you'll get into deep trouble. Or 1 hour distance, you can get into deep trouble. In Santo Domingo, we shot some scenes because we were doing a commercial in Santo Domingo, so we took our Bolex camera and shot some scenes there. And we were getting told off in the street by two guys doing some kissing scenes, so we had to still like during the shooting be super cautious with where and what we were shooting. And so yeah, still it's pretty fucked up, you know. So there has to be this reminder that war is not over, you know. We're still struggling, you know. And thank God things are changing to good, but yeah, we still have a lot to do. There's like, I don't know, 70 something countries in the world that still is it's a crime to be homosexual.
And America is sort of headed that way as well.
Mhm.
Cyril, I guess for you too, the as a sort of a author and director of a coming out tale, you created this sort of world that it's like it was pretty safe. It was a pretty safe space, and you sort of did it with comedy, kind of like linking it to sort of like coming out about cannabis.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your process of sort of creating that sort of world and that space for that story to sort of unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first came up with the idea, I initially just wanted to make it like a skit. And it was when I was talking to my co-creators that they were like, no, we can like really like bring some more, story overarching to it. And I think that's where that kind of safe space came from in terms of this universe, because it was always its own universe, semi-real, like real, but it was its own universe, its own space. We essentially were like, yeah, we live in the world of the driveway and the apartment. So it's just in here that we're focused. We wanted it to, as you saw with the mother character, Gloria, she's a little old lady. So it was like everything to show how nice and peaceful it was. But then her attitude was not quite little old nice. And that's where that tension came in terms of the story. But it just came from a place of just exploring the comedy of the situation, I guess.
Well, that's great. And how did you find your casting too? Because I mean, Gloria was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think she played her role very well as sort of like Republican mom, sort
Yep.
of. But then, with the sort of change once she kind of hit the blunt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was blessed to meet Gloria. So I'm originally from New Zealand and I traveled to LA in 2019 and I met her during the 3 months that I was here. She was involved with a short film from some other friends of mine. And when I saw her and saw her on screen, I was like, I have to work with this woman because she's hilarious and she's great. And I always wanted her to play my mum just because of our height difference. I just thought that that in itself is a great comedic thing. Why not? You know? And then Che, who played Mitch, was someone that I'd been doing class with for a while. I initially wrote the role for somebody else, but they couldn't be here in LA at the time that we were going to shoot this. And then Che, who was over here, and I've been working with him for almost a year, I was like, well, you kind of fit the bill. And it was fun to work with somebody that I'd already worked with for a year. So that in itself was fun to further explore our dynamic.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. That kind of leads into my next question: is what it was like to cast yourself and sort of direct yourself in a project.
Oh, I was really grateful to have two great co-creators that once we got to set and we were filming things that I was on camera for, I just try and we'd worked together on previous projects. So there's been a lot of built trust over years that I could just focus on doing the acting and let them do the directing, let them steer the story. We've had many conversations leading up to this, so we were all on the same page. It made it like a really, I mean, we had like a crew of I think 4 people, and we accomplished quite a lot for the resources that we had, and that came from just we'd worked together numerous times. We were adaptable. And then, yeah, I guess that gave me the ease. I've done short films before where I was also director and also acting, and I definitely was in director mindset when I was acting. But in this project, I was really grateful that everything was in place that I could just take the hat off and just do the acting.
I guess Andrew Chappelle, that would be the same question to you, considering you wrote and starred as well.
Yeah, look, I knew I wasn't ready to direct and do all of that. I was like, I gotta bring somebody on board who knows comedy. Because once you get the writing out of the way, I just it takes so much to give a good acting performance. And this film was my first time out, and I just didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. I've just been so fortunate to work with so many people in my career. And so once I had the script done, I just started going out to people. I was like, hey, here's a script. You want to read it? And it's like, you anyone who writes knows you send your script to 50 people, 2 people read it. So Taron was the first person to get back to me, and we went out to lunch, and he told me he wanted to direct it before we even sat down at the table, which was just kind of like the ideal situation for me because we had worked together in New York, but he and I also went to the same high school, but at different times. And so, when you have like intersectionality with somebody like that in life, you just kind of have to go with it. You're like, here's a guy who knows what I need and is willing to basically work for free and put countless hours. And I'm so thankful to him because he really helped to take my script to the next level, and really helped me beat out the acts and bring more dimension to the characters. And I don't think I would have been able to do that on my own. I definitely come from the school of thought of just like best idea wins, and bring as many people in as you can, and obviously don't lose your voice and blah blah blah. But I was super judicious about who I brought in on this. And so if somebody was on the team and they had a thought or a concern, I was like, yeah, girl, let's bring it out. Let's figure this out. Let's make sure that this is right. And so yeah, but then it was really the producer hat while I was acting that was like holy shit, you know, you're trying to make your day, you're managing 1 million actors. We had like 36 extras. It was also like we shot it during COVID and we were following all the COVID like protocols, which was nuts because, you know, when you shoot a big budget, you know, TV show or something, if someone has COVID, they'll just be like, okay, well, we'll write around them or we'll bring them back next week. And for mine, I was like, we were shooting 4 days and we did not have anybody else that we could, the bench was not that deep. So, you know, I was definitely having to keep my cool on set because the COVID coordinators coming to me being like, so-and-so tested positive, but we think it's a false positive. So we have to send them back. And I'm like, and we're filming the scene. But, you know, look, you know, but I have nerves of steel from working in New York for a decade. So it was my whole life prepared me for that moment.
If it doesn't break you, it only makes you stronger.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Plus all of all that metallic costuming that you had.
Weren't those pants great?
Yes.
My friend Quentin did the costumes for me, you know, via Zoom from New York, and we would just get on the computer and be like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this?" And it was just like trying to get people the fittings and whatnot. But it was really important to me that, you know, their performance costumes didn't look off the rack.
Mm.
And so I hand beaded those tops.
Amazing.
with my friend, but it was like that was a lot of rhinestones. But it didn't look off the rack, at least not to me.
It completely didn't. So, and I'm actually really surprised that you were hand beating things. That's amazing. That's some production chops right there.
So many people came out of the woodwork to help. You know, I think that's actually honestly like the most beautiful thing about filmmaking that I discovered is like, you know, when you conceptualize an idea and you're writing it, you feel kind of isolated and alone because nobody knows your vision and you're trying to get it out. And then you're trying to onboard people to like see the beautiful thing that you made. And finally you get some people. And then the amazing thing is once people believe in it, they're writing for you. And so like I didn't know how to stone a top, but then one of my producers had a friend who knew and he was like, oh my God, I'll help you. And so it becomes this like beautiful community effort, which I really appreciate.
I can appreciate that as well as someone who sort of directs a community of propagandists here at Wicked Queer. So I kind of want to open up the floor if anybody has questions for each other. I wanted this Q&A to sort of be conversational. So does anybody have questions for each other?
Yeah. So Kane, what did you shoot your film on? Because oh my gosh, that first half, like before you got to all of the like news footage, it really did have that gritty like Fight Club-esque feel to it. And I think I saw somewhere it looks like it's a vintage camera you shot on, no?
Yeah, I shot it on 16 millimeters. Yeah, that's right. It's filmed.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was stunning. I mean, the shots at the beginning of your film were, I sent you a message on Instagram, but it was just like, it was beautiful. And I really, it really did catch me by surprise when it turned, because I was like, oh, this is a really like kind of like erotic, sexualized, like tormented coming out moment. And then when it flipped and it was like, so awful and sad at the end when you're faced with what reality is. So yeah, I mean, I loved that. I loved what you did with your film.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, actually while we were editing, we were planning on purpose to do like a side and a B side of a disc, like the moment, like here in Mexico, we say dar la vuelta a la tortilla, no? Turn the tortilla around and cook it on the other side. That's the side. Not all of the people know that we as a community struggle or have struggled or are going to struggle in the future about coming out, no? And it's not only about coming out. It's about the barriers you can find during your lifetime as a gay LGBTQ community, you know. So that's why I wanted to mark very differently those two sides of the film.
But then also, I mean, you tied it in so awesome at the end when you were doing the credits and it was all the people at the funeral and they were all just dressed down. And I was speaking to an audience member afterwards and they're like, they were dressed. Why were they so dressed up? And I said, because some gay man died and told his friends, y'all need to dress cut at the funeral. And I mean, everybody looked incredible at that funeral. They showed out for their friends.
That was oh sorry.
No, go ahead.
That was very curious because I wrote that scene, and once I invited the makeup artist to join us for the film, she said, like, Kane, you know, I don't work for free anymore, but when I read that part of the script, I remembered of a funeral of a friend, and we were dressed all like with wigs, and it was all just how you wrote it. So I'm in. So yeah, it happens.
It was beautiful. It was an awesome ending to the story.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for each other?
Yeah, I was just sort of curious with like the whole group. I know when it comes to directing and making these movies, it's very personal and challenging, but also it's supposed to be fun. Like as filmmakers, we want to have a good time and be proud of the work we come up with. So I was just curious, what was everyone's like favorite moment in terms of like directing or writing or any part of the filmmaking? I just love to know what you guys like the most about this process.
Oh man, I had a huge inconceivable wave of relief when we like wrapped. We had a really stressful last day. We had been on schedule. It was like going too smoothly, of course. And then the last day we shot the dance sequence and the scene with Caroline Rhea and this other scene, and one of the actresses had gotten COVID. And so I had to rewrite this scene, and the actress was outside and she was like, I need to talk to Andrew. It was very stressful. And we were shooting at Lance Bass's club here in LA called Heart. And we had a hard out by a certain time. And we hadn't shot a really important scene. And I swear to God, we had 2 minutes. And I was just like, we got to get it. We can't come back in here. And we got it. And I just fell to the floor knowing that we got it in the can. You know, it's that feeling of there's so many months of preparation, the writing and corralling and emailing, and then to finally be like, okay, we got it. And now post-production, which nobody told me post-production was certain hell. Oh my God.
It's terrible. Yeah.
It's horrible. They need to make that more known to the general public.
It's where it comes to life at the end. It's basically the editor is like our therapist at that point. Because we get
editor.
As a filmmaker myself, I love the editing process, and I guess it's just sort of my organizational sort of brain kind of coming in there, because that's where sort of all comes together for me. So
I just didn't understand how many different people had to do different jobs. I thought there was an editor, she edited it, and it was done. And I was wrong about that.
So maybe you can answer the question of where you found your joy in your production.
Sorry, was that to me?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. For me, this was the first production as well that we dabbled in crowdfunding. And one of the things we did for one of the really accessible tiers was a shout out on social media, and like that particular tier would pay for like ice cold lemonade or something. So it was like a refreshing drink, because we were filming during, I believe maybe it was August of last year in LA. We were really grateful for some colder days during the heat, but it was really fun to do the videos. Like, thanks to whomever, thank you for your support and your donation, cheers to you, and having a quick drink like that. We did that, we had 2 days of filming, and doing that throughout the days was a really fun way. And like everybody took turns there definitely got hectic parts when then First Lady was like, no more shout outs. We have to film. Like, we got to stick to the schedule. So then we were like, all right. And then we just did a big round of cheers at the end. But that was a really cool, fun way for us to engage with the people that supported us financially to be able to make the film. So that was really fun.
So, okay, maybe to bring it home with this joyous part. Actually, I think Andrew from Sax, you should also chime in too of your favorite part.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go for
Yep.
it. Go for it, Kane.
Oh, okay. No, okay. Well, I love being on set. It's my comfort zone. So I would say the best part was when in pre-production, like all the amount of people that would join in the project for free and with their super talent and skills and with everything they had to enrich all the process. That was probably the best part. And the worst part, the first time I saw it in a big screen in a festival, I was shivering. It was like coming out again in the middle of all the audience. Yeah, that was like I got super nervous because only some friends had watched it, but the first time you see it in a big screen, you're like, shit, anything can happen here.
But the
That's what
screening went
happened.
well, yes?
Yeah. Oh.
The screening ultimately went well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I was drunk just in case it didn't.
Just really quick on that. Actually, Wicked Queer was our worldwide premiere. I don't know if I mentioned that anywhere. But yeah, it was the first time that was ever screened to the public. So for whoever was there you go.
Well, yeah, Andrew and I saw our films for the first time, right? Andrew, that was the first time. I mean, I was crying.
Yeah.
I was crying. I was like emotional.
It's terrible, no? I was so scared.
Well, at first I was nervous because I don't know how the DCP and all this. I was just like, is the sound going to be working? But then once I saw that it was working, I was like, oh, I can enjoy and like see how the audience receives it. Which, like, for a comedy, you kind of know, are they receiving it or not? And so, like, every time somebody laughed, I kind of choked up a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like when I was sending in all of those tech things to make sure it screened well, the whole day I was thinking like, oh my gosh, is it gonna screen well? Is it gonna work? And then turned out great, and everyone else's turned out great. There was no tech errors to my knowledge. If there were, they were well hidden. Because I thought they did a really good job. So yeah, kudos to us. But kind of answering the question in terms of like the joy I found, I really like working with actors and like getting to know them on and off set because especially near the end of it when they were doing the intimate scene, because I saved that for the end. Having my two main actors really get to know each other helped them be very comfortable by that time, which I feel like is very important. And then the other moment I was going to mention in terms of like my absolute favorite moment on set is before we started filming, I had to work with a composer to make sure that the music was right. And usually you're doing that in post-production, but in this case, we had to do it by the time our actor Ryan played the saxophone on set. And so the first time that Ryan played that solo in the auditorium, I think everyone was just like dead silent and just amazed at like how good he was at playing the saxophone and getting that performance out. So that just made me very happy. I was like, is this a one-take wonder? Probably not, but it was beautiful.
Was he familiar with the saxophone before you cast him?
Yeah, I made sure that anyone who auditioned for sax knew how to play an instrument to some extent. So I had them send in videotapes too of them playing the instruments. And Ryan, the main actor, and Kiambo, who was one of the members of the ensemble, both knew how to play a saxophone and sent great videos. And Ryan was playing for a long time and he was great for Colby. So very happy with that.
That's great.
How many days did everybody shoot?
2 days.
Oh, wow. Good for you for 2 days.
That's a lot of water. That's a lot of lemonade shout outs.
There was a lot of lemonade. Oh my goodness.
How many lasagna takes though was there?
We had 2 lasagnas. We only used the one for the shooting, and then the second one we ate when we then took our lunch.
There goes craft service. I mean, craft
That's
services.
honestly, that's my other favorite part was like I like writing stories that have eating involved. So then I'm like, oh yes, we've got lunch sorted on that day.
I shot 2 days in Dominican Republic and 4 days in Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly, watching yours, I thought that you shot it over like 2 years.
It seemed
There were
like
so many locations and setups.
yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
that tub that's elevated, it was
Yeah.
rent free in my mind forever.
How did you do that? How
I
did
was
you
like,
do
it was so gorgeous.
and the people suspended in the cafe with the papers? How did you do that?
It's magic. No, no, well, the bathtub was actually a friend's house that I was looking for, houses to shoot, and this guy came and said, "Why don't you come and see my house? I'm sure you can shoot something there." And of course we did. Like we had to light it and rig the camera and do all that crazy stuff. But literally, his bathtub is hanging in the middle of a wall, which is just amazing.
So
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the other scene, we just hung the guys and just deleted the cables after that.
Insane. I'm so glad that you reminded me of that. I wanted to ask.
So I guess one final question before we wrap up. What is next for all of you? I know that this is the first screenings for all of these films. So I want to wish you a really great and long festival run, and hopefully some good distribution deals on the end of that or during it. But what's sort of next?
Coming out, I guess. I'm ready. Just kidding.
Yeah, you are.
Welcome.
I'm writing my first feature film. I'm in the process, which has got nothing to do with short films. It's very difficult.
Does it have to do with queer stuff?
No, not this time. I was tempted, but no, not this time. Maybe there'll be something. Let's see how it evolves. But
Well, definitely let me know if there is something queer that I can. I can
yeah, of course, would love to share with you guys. Of course, I would be more than happy.
Sarah, how about you? What's next?
Next for me is I'm also writing and developing my first feature film. It's going to be a cannabis sports comedy. It's a little
You
bit
love
of
weed.
Yeah, I work in cannabis, so it's a lot of my life.
You've got the sponsors.
I was really happy for the Blue Dream shout out because Blue Dream's one of my favorite strains. So I was like, yeah.
Hell yeah, some good Blue Dream. Yeah, so writing that out, and I want to film that back in New Zealand because I want to create some opportunities for filmmakers back, where I'm from. So that's what I'm working on whilst working in cannabis.
Nice. Andrew Chappelle, how about you?
I'm developing Fanatic into a full-length feature right now. And we're out to a whole bunch of people about that. And I'm super excited about what my short looks like as a feature. There's a lot of things that have changed just to make it more marketable and more of a substantial movie. And so I'm really enjoying that process because I'm super malleable when I'm just first conceptualizing an idea. So it's still in the fun phase right now. Get back to me in a few months. And then in my acting life, I'm on a television show on Stars called Blind Spotting. And we have our premiere is actually tomorrow, but it airs on Friday, April 14th on Stars at 9 p.m.
Nice.
And we are so happy to be back. It's our second season, and we have been waiting to release this season for a while because we shot it over a year ago. So I got to see 3 episodes at South by Southwest, which was really cool to see it come alive. and I'll get to see 2 more tomorrow.
That's great. I'm kind of looking forward to the feature soundtrack to Fanatic.
Baby, you know I already have the songs written. 'Cause
That's amazing.
The songs are actually the background music in the short, but you know, it's background music. You can't really decipher it. But yeah, I mean, I hired a guy to sing the songs and do the instrumentation, and you got to do things full out, baby.
Right. I applaud that. So it's amazing. So Andrew, what's bring it home.
Yeah, well, first of all, I was gonna say that I love everyone's ideas. I love the short to feature, and I love all the feature ideas. Have that whiplash effect too. If they had a really good short in the feature. But anyways, what I'm working on next is I'm gonna continue dabbling in shorts a little bit. So I am working on a story about drag brunch and a hot waiter. So stay tuned for that. And then I kind of mentioned this in the screening, but I think it's always important that, like, regardless whether you're writing or not, it's always important to elevate queer stories, immerse yourself in LGBTQ community however you can. And so, like, even going to a few of the screenings at Wicked Queer was so cool, like seeing Joyland and Luke Heftan and all those movies. And I just, moving forward, no matter where I am, I just want to continue to surround myself with queer individuals and elevate those voices that might not have been heard recently, because I know, like we were talking about, the USA is just dealing with a lot of shit right now. So how can we just spread awareness to people who might not know what's going on? So that's what I'm working on in addition to writing.
That's amazing. And that's a really good note to end on, because I definitely have to agree that we need to power up queer storytelling as much as possible. And you know, there's as you have seen, there's an audience for it. Definitely our festival is it's kind of funny, because a year ago it was a different story coming out of the pandemic, but I feel like people are back in the theaters. People are excited for representation, for the storytelling. I think the world has become a little too heavy across the board politically. Not that people should shy away from that, but at the same time, let's celebrate our queer joy, our queer community, and our queer connections. So I thank all of you for joining us for this kind of hash out of the Men's Shorts program. I wish you all really amazing success in your future endeavors, and hopefully again, let me know where everything lands, because I'm totally fascinated. You've got a fan in me for all of you. So so thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Pleasure meeting you guys.
Yeah, nice meeting you too.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
All right, so Men's Shorts program will run until April 30th on our Eventive website, which is wickedqueer.eventive.org. So check it out. Thanks, everyone.